heritage, our tradition, our future. Today, we become.
In this episode of Premier Interschools, we look ahead to this Saturday's Cape Derby between rivals Roos Gymnasium and the Grey High School, live on SuperSport. In this week's derby match, two of South Africa's oldest schools, Roos Gymnasium in Stellenbosch and Grey High School in Port Elizabeth, come head-to-head in what has always been a massive encounter between two giants of rugby, both with long histories and traditions, both with massive pride in their schools.
We've been very competitive over the last few years, but it's very important for us that the values we instill in the classroom to transcend that to the playing field. But we're obviously very proud of the caliber rugby players we've produced over the last couple of years, like Damian Willemse, Steven Kitsoff.
This year the host is Roos at their famous Marcotta field in Stellenbosch, named after August Friedrich Marcotta, affectionately known as Mr. Mark, who Dr. Donnie Craven described as one of the best rugby experts ever.
It's the first Interschools of the season, and it's on our home soil, so we've got to set the tone for what lies ahead for the rest of the season. Thousands of boys that are supporting us. It's a good opportunity for the lads to settle in and become comfortable for the season ahead.
Roos had a good season last year, and the new first team will be looking to build on that foundation.
Alle games hierdie jaar is ons baie belangrik om te wen. Maar Grey is 'n tradisie om dat kry 'n groot game is vir ons. En veral omdat dit so vroeg in die seisoen is, ons wil daai eerste groot game wen.
I think every game is important to us, but in the year there are games that are bigger because there are more supporters there, the schools that attend, the learners, there are more learners there. So the pressure is definitely bigger at a derby like that, but I think all games are equally important to us.
Continuity for a coach is a bonus, so we have boys left from last year, and they're also being joined by guys from the 16s that's coming through to join them at the 19 level. So we have a great mix of youth and experience.
Founded in 1866, Roos Gymnasium has long been an institution true to its motto of pride, respect and gentlemanship. The school has two boarding houses, Prima and Nova, and has approximately 1,300 boys. Famous alumni include politicians Jan Smuts, Piet Korenhoff and Jannie Momberg. Business leaders include Richmont's Johan Rupert, Mediclinic founder Edwin Herzog, Capitex Rian Stassen, Venfin's Jannie Durant and Distel's Jan Scannell. In the arts, Old Boys include the writer and poet Ace Krieger, composer Arnold van Wyk, musicians Koos Kombuis and Idols winner Heinz Winkler. The school's connection to rugby begins with its name. Originally, the school and university were the same, known as Victoria College, and still share the maroon and gold rugby jersey. Roos was the captain of the first Springbok team to tour England, was himself a former pupil and teacher at the school, and was the school's rector from 1910 to 1940, after which the school was renamed in his honour. The list of rugby old boys is substantial, including legends such as Roos himself, Chol Lateghan and Hempies du Toit, but more recently, Andries Becker, Skulk Brits, Francois Hougaard, Willie Leroux, Steven Kitsoff and Damian Willemse.
Yeah, last year was a nail-biting one. There was the try that Grace scored, I think that changed the game at the end. So, yeah, that was a big turning point in that game. But the boys fought until the end, which was really pleasing to see. Yeah, definitely playing at Makota will give the boys that edge, home ground advantage always plays a part, So, yeah, I think the boys will just use that to the end of the advantage, and just go out and play for the school, play for the guys next to them.
Yeah, we played them in 2009, we played them in Stellenbosch, and 2010 we played them in Port Elizabeth. Quite a tough encounter, the one at home we won comfortably, but when we went up to Port Elizabeth it was quite a difficult game to win. I think we pulled it through at the end, something like 19-15, but it was a very close game.
What about any Polrus traditions before the game?
The one song when you're on the field and the whole school starts singing Old Boys behind you, and on the opposite side of the field the old boys join in. You'll get goosebumps at any given moment in the game.
When you ask about gees, it's a hard question to answer because it's difficult to describe. When you're on the field, it's just, when you look up and you see the whole school there supporting you, driving you on, it's just like a special feeling that you get, and it's very hard to describe, but it's an amazing feeling.
Other than a convincing Polrus win in 2015, over the last 8 years the games have been closely fought encounters, and 2018 promises to be no different. The game at Makota will be one of the big ones to watch this weekend. The visitors making the journey to Stellenbosch from Port Elizabeth are Grey High, or as they are traditionally known, the Grey.
Rugby has always been competitive. We've been able to compete with the best schools in the country. Boys have always done well. We've also been able to fortunately produce a couple of people recently, like Kerwin Bosch, Sia Khaleesi, Sergio Peterson, JJ Engelbrecht. So we've been able to get some good players that we've been able to churn out in the last couple of years. So our rugby's been strong and we've been very proud of it.
Founded 10 years before Polrus in 1856 by John Patterson and named after Sir George Grey, Governor of the Cape Colony between 1854 and 1861, the school has approximately 800 boys, including 100 boarders. In addition to its wide academic and cultural offerings, the school caters for 13 sports disciplines, including its well-known rowing teams. Looking at the last 10 results, Grey High has had some close encounters, including last year's thrilling 2-point win over Polrus on the Phillip Field. We asked the players how they felt about this year's game at Makota in Stellenbosch.
Yes, of course, this is where we would have to stamp our authority. It's the first derby day of all our rugby derby days, and we would like to set a high standard and maintain the standard during the year.
Well, not only is it like a normal big derby, it's one of our big derbies, especially now getting the chance to play at the Makota. Our age group, all the age group below us, hasn't had the chance to play at the Makota. You only get to play there once you reach the Opens, and obviously it has to be at Polrus. There was a bit of a debate about the game coming down to PE for the water, but luckily they've decided that it's going to stay at the Makota, so we're all excited. We're our first game there, so we're very keen to.
We've got 4 players back from our last year's first 15, and then the rest of the squad, we've got a makeup of 9 other boys that were capped last season as well. So we have a relatively young group, and that younger group sort of has brought a lot of energy to the whole preparations this year. So we're quite excited to see what we can achieve with them.
Notable alumni include Rear Admiral Robert Higgs, SA Navy, Parliamentarian David Mania, and Stumble Upon CEO Mark Bartels. The list of sporting old greys is extensive, including cricketing legends Graham and Peter Pollock, tennis player Cliff Drysdale, and Paralympic gold medalist Kevin Paul. The rugby alumni include Roy Drybera and, more recently, Sia Khaleesi, JJ Engelbrecht, Jan Serfontein, Kerwin Bosch, as well as Jeremy Ward and Sergio Peterson.
I matriculated 2012 and we played Polrus in Stellenbosch and we beat them that year.
Yeah, I remember my first team game against Roos was when I was 17, grade 11, and I broke my foot in the beginning of the season. And I came out of a moon boot the Wednesday before the game, and I came off the bench to play the last 10 minutes against Roos.
You know, that does play a role, playing away from home. But I back the boys, and you know, it's always a big outing playing against Roos, and I'm sure they'll be up for the challenge.
I'm sure the home team always have a little bit of advantage, but you know, I've watched great PE beat Roos at home at the Makota for like 30-40 points the year after I left school. So I'm sure they can do it again maybe this year, you know.
Are there any special great traditions the first team observes?
Every time we go into that field and do the haka, it's something special to us also. It's something special. I mean, we get to do it here in front of the whole crowd. We first walk over these special steps here right behind you, so, and then we go into the field, we do this haka. And I mean, it's our 125th year of rugby.
This is the great tradition of the players run around the captain in the middle, and then, of course, the war cry thereafter. And I'm sure the Polris guys are standing there. It's almost like a mini haka, isn't it?
I've always wondered what you did in that circle, Gav.
Well, you know, a very, very interesting little war cry as well. You know, zum zum pulu, ichibara pulu. The game in Stellenbosch will once again be a meeting of the Titans, as these two proud schools meet up on the rugby field with massive pride at stake.
There's going to be a lot of messages, but I'm sure you guys know what your game plan is and everything, so just go out and play for the badge in front of you, and yeah, that's it, just enjoy it.
Well, all I can say is just go out there, enjoy yourselves, and you know, make the great proud.
For our heritage, our tradition, our future. Today, we become.
Watch Polris Gymnasium versus Grey High in Premier Interschools Rugby this Saturday, live on SuperSport.